You. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I will go ahead and call to order the Finance Committee of the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department for today, Wednesday, March 5th. May we have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Forte,
Present.
Commissioner Einhauser,
Commissioner Einhauser, you're on mute. He's here.
and Commissioner Coleman.
Present, Detroit, Michigan.
All right, Madam Chair, we have a quorum today.
Wonderful. The first item of business we have here is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I'll support it.
I support.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. And we'll now move on to public participation. And I think Brian is on and he'll lead us into public participation.
Madam Chair, we didn't approve the minutes yet as well.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. The next item is really the approval of the February 5th, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is approved. Thank you very much. Now we'll move into public participation. Brian?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Brian Peckapaw, Public Affairs Director for Detroit Water and Sewerage Department. I'll give the instructions since this is the first committee meeting of the afternoon. To make a comment, please raise your hand using the raise hand icon on your desktop or mobile device using the Zoom app. If you are calling into the meeting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. During the public comment, after your name is called, you will be given permission to unmute. In order to begin speaking, you will have to unmute yourself. To do so, press the unmute button, which is that microphone icon if you're online or on the Zoom app, or *6 if you are calling in. You will have a limit of 3 minutes to make your comment. There will be a timer indicating your remaining time. If you're online and make a comment, we kindly request you fill out the comment card link that's located in the chat. By filling out the card, we will have your contact information to follow up appropriately. You will only be called upon once. Once the chair closes public comment, there will be no other comments from the public, and all attendees will remain muted for the duration of this committee meeting. Thank you for your attention. And the first person in public comment is Mr. Miko Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. You have the floor.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, commissioners. Tamiko Williams, Chief Executive Director of Hydrate Detroit. I've come to you to talk with you and try to get some clarity and understanding on what we can do to save money. I'm really concerned that we're not talking about savings. All you hear is cut. We got to cut back. We got to do this. We got to remediate. And we don't hear anything about saving. What have you done to save Detroiters money? You know, as the vote last week really told a lot about infrastructure. You know, we hear a lot about all these projects, but we don't get transparency over where these projects are, who's on these projects, how much it's costing, and when is the due date for these projects to be completed. We kick the can and we kick all the concerns in the can up Randolph Street, and we don't even have a solution to, there's been plans floated over the years. And now we're at the impasse where we don't have any funds to show for it, or the funds that we have received, now we have to spend it on matters such as Southwest Detroit. They're getting furnaces, they're getting improvements that longtime residents can't even afford. You denied them the opportunity to get the claims on their floods from 2021, 2022, even back as far as 2018. You know, we want to hear about savings and what we can do now to save money. we're in a tight federal government, and I don't know if you heard from last night. There is no improved federal funding, or even so much as any improvements coming around this. They didn't talk about infrastructure. The president doesn't care about infrastructure. He only wants it to. He only wants it to spend and destroy and to kill off big cities. You may disagree with that, but it is clear as day that infrastructure is not at the top of his list. So how else are you going to pass this off to the consumers in rate increases that we don't even own, we don't even have? It's a shame that those leaders that said no are the same leaders who won't give or won't promote the water affordability piece. Neither did the GLWA leaders. It's like, how much can we pay into the system to keep hearing about cutting, instead of savings? It's not saving us any money if you have to keep tapping into our rates. Detroit, the suburbs, and other communities around southeastern Michigan cannot pay. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you. Do we have other public members?
Madam Chair, yes, Madam Chair, Norrell Hemphill.
Good
Yes,
afternoon. How's everybody doing today?
great, Ms. Hemphill.
Good. Quick question. For this year's budget and for the budget going forward, um, is there an opportunity for us to look at creative ways to fund a water affordability program? I noticed that there was funding for um, the water main break that was in Southwest Detroit. Is that funding coming from a special pot of money? Are there set asides for disaster relief? I would like to know, please, where that funding is coming from, and could some of that funding be allocated um, to a water affordability program? And how much funding has DWSD committed to helping those residents in Southwest? And I guess as a matter of a process question, is DWSD offering that funding to be benevolent? Um, I thought Gleeville was responsible for those pipes. So if you could clarify that, um, why is DWSD offering this funding um, when Gleeville is responsible for the pipes? And where is the source of funding that DWSD has committed to helping those residents in Southwest Detroit coming? And thank you so much all for the work that you do in support of Detroiters.
Thank you, Ms. Hemphill. Thank you for your comment.
Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised.
Okay. We don't have any additional public comments, so at this point in time, we will close public comments and move on to item 6A, communications. 2025-47. Is there a motion to receive and file the correspondence?
I move that we receive and file the correspondence regarding the BOW memo, contacts with purchase, and the ECS report.
I second it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved, and we'll move on to item 7. That's unfinished, excuse me, unfinished business. We have none. We'll move on to item 8A, 2025-48. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the committee recommend to the Board of Water Commissioners the approval of DWSD purchase order 3080762 with ARI Phoenix Inc., DBA ARI Herta, for the purchase of motor vehicle column lifts for a total purchase price not to exceed $163,441.40, and authorize the director to take any necessary action.
Support.
Thank you. It's been moved and supported. I'd like to ask Ms. Welch to step forward.
Madam Chair, I am Michelle McKenzie. I am standing in for Marquesha this afternoon.
Okay, Ms. McKenzie, so please proceed. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, board. This PO is for fleet to purchase new vehicle column lifts. This also includes training for the fleet personnel. This equipment is used daily by the fleet technicians to help with repairs. This purchase is part of the fleet's CIP budget. This bid was published for 29 days. We received 3 bids. ARI Phoenix was the lowest responsible bidder. Based on this information, procurement recommends to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Are there questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. And we'll move on to item B, 2025-49. Is there a motion, Commissioners?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Coleman?
I'd like to make a recommendation to the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department, authorizing the directors to approve DWSD contracts 6006967 with DLZ Michigan Incorporated, 6006968 with Orchard Hills and McClement Incorporated, doing business as OHM Advisors, and 6006969 with SOMAT Engineering for professional engineering services for as-needed water and sewer capital improvement project number CS TAC 1990, for combined total contract amount not to exceed, is this 6 million or?
It's like 6 million to me.
Yeah, we are missing a zero
One of
on
the
there.
zeros is missing.
So 6 million is the number.
I
And
support the motion.
okay, $6 million in a term of 3 years. This also authorizes the directors to take such other actions as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Thank you. And I heard support from Commissioner Einhauser. And I'll ask Ms. McKenzie to help us out with further details.
This is for 3 engineering services contracts to help support our engineering group for as-needed water and sewer CIP projects. This total contract amount will be split evenly amongst the 3 contracts. This was advertised for 49 days. We received 9 proposals. They were evaluated and scored based on the vendor's ability to perform work, their work plan and organization, and their staff experience. The top 3 highest ranked proposers were DLZ, OHM, and SOMAT. All 3 of these have Detroit certifications, and procurement, based on this information, recommends to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. We'll move on to 2025-50. Commissioners?
Well, yes, Madam Chair. I move the committee recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of DWSD contract number 6006991, DSW 970, with L. DiAgostini and Sons, Inc., for sewer reconfiguration project near Rosedale Park for a total contract amount not to exceed $6,274,863.50 for a term of 465 days, and authorize the director to act appropriately.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that is a project near Riverside Park as opposed to Rosedale Park.
Oh, I said Rosedale. I
Yes.
stand corrected.
Is there support for that motion?
Madam Chair, I support it.
Thank you. Ms. McKenzie?
Thank you. This contract was established as a result of a joint agreement with the City of Centerline, the Great Lakes Water Authority, and DWSD. The purpose is to remove approximately 53 acres of residential and industrial land from DWSD's combined sewer system. The completion of this work will provide additional capacity in the Detroit River Interceptor by discharging more sanitary flow into GLEWA's system. The project was competitively bid for 50 days. We received 4 bids, and Destini was the lowest responsible bidder. And based on this information, procurement recommends to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board.
Thank you. Are there questions? Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. We'll move on to 2025-51. Commissioners?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to recommend to the Board of Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department authorize directors to approve DWSD contract number 6007004 with Groundwork Zero LLC, a piggyback off the City of Detroit contract number 6006678 for network and voice maintenance contract for a total contract not to exceed the amount of $390,000 and a term of 2 years, 7 months, and 4 days. This authorizes the directors to take such other action as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Support.
Been moved and properly supported. Ms. McKenzie?
Okay, this contract and the next are both piggyback contracts off the City of Detroit's Groundwork Zero contracts. The first one is for maintenance. This contract will provide DWSD IT maintenance services for our network and phone systems. These services contracts are a valuable way to keep the costs and disruptions to a minimum while maximizing the system's performance through timely preventative maintenance activities. With this service contract, Groundwork Zero will schedule routine maintenance during off-peak hours, ensuring that the equipment is in good condition so that peak hour failures are kept to a minimum. The contractor has agreed to the piggyback. Groundwork Zero does hold 3 Detroit certifications. This contract was competitively solicited by the City of Detroit and was approved by the City Council in November of 2024. Based on this information, procurement recommends this contract to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is approved. And we'll move on to 2025-52 for a motion. And I'm sure we heard some of the connection regarding the piggyback in Ms. McKenzie's last comments. Is there a motion, Commissioners?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that we recommend to the Board of Water Commissioners the approval of DWSD contract number 6007005 with Groundwork Zero LLC, a piggyback off the City of Detroit contract number 6006718 for network voice equipment and software purchases for a total contract not to exceed amount of $300,000 and a term of 2 years, 7 months, and 4 days, and authorize the director to act appropriately.
Thank you. Is there support for the motion?
Support.
Been moved and supported. Ms. McKenzie, do you have additional comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. This second piggyback contract is through the City of Detroit's Groundwork Zero contract for the network voice equipment and software purchases. This contract will provide DWSD IT the ability to purchase network and voice equipment. This helps with new and additional infrastructure and related equipment and services for improving the dependability of our network, our wireless infrastructure, and our phone system while aligning to any asset lifespan plan. This ensures DWSD uses modern technology that improves reliability, performance, and cybersecurity posture. This vendor has agreed again to this contract piggyback. And again, Groundwork Zero has 3 Detroit certifications. And based on the information, procurement recommends this contract to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please signify by the sign of aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. The next item is 2025-53. Commissioners,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Coleman.
the Board of Water Commissioners, I'd like to recommend to the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department. Authorize directors to approve DWSD contract 6007024 with Detroit Grounds Crew LLC for tree trimming / shrub removal for a total contract amount not to exceed $450,000 in a term of 3 years. This is also authorizing the directors to take such other actions as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Support for the motion.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Ms. Welch. I'm sorry,
Oh.
Ms. McKenzie. Looking at the name and looking right at you.
That's okay. I don't mind. Thank you, Madam Chair. This contract will support DWSD's operations by providing as-needed tree trimming and removal services. This is an emergency response contract, which requires the vendor to respond within 24 hours. Tree trimming or removal is sometimes requested when field crews are working on assets, but may be inhibited by unsafe conditions. When permissible, DWSD does use the COD forestry team, but in emergency situations, the timeliness of depending on the city entity is not favorable. This bid was advertised for 24 days. 5 bids were received. Detroit Grounds Crew was the lowest responsible bidder. They hold 3 Detroit certifications. And based on this information, procurement recommends this contract to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board for approval.
Great. Questions or comments?
Mhm.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. We'll move on to item G, 2025-54.
64 or 54?
54.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Chair, I move that we recommend to the Board of Water Commissioners the approval of contract 6007027 with EJUSA Inc. and DWSD contract 6007028 with Melmick Company Inc., DBA Motor City Pipe and Supply Company for various brass items for a combined total contract amount not to exceed $365,299.60 for a term of 2 years, and authorize the director to take any appropriate action.
Support.
And moved and properly supported. May I have Ms. McKenzie provide some context for us?
These are warehouse replenishment contracts for brass items used for DWSD field crews to support water service connections to the distribution main, service lines, and meters. Bids were advertised for 22 days. 4 bids were received, and EJ and Motor City were the 2 lowest responsible bidders. The other 2 bidders were unable to hold pricing for the 2 years. Based
Great.
on this information, procurement recommends these contracts to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board for approval.
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is approved. Okay, we'll move on to item H, 2025-55. Commissioners.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Coleman.
I'd like to make a recommendation to the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewer Department, authorizing the directors to approve DWSD contract number 6007029 with Ferguson Waterworks for the as-needed purchase of various size ductile piping for a total contract amount not to exceed $455,105.52 and a term of 2 years. The Board of Water Commissioner also authorizes directors to take such other action as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote.
Support.
Been moved and properly supported. Ms. McKenzie.
Thank you. This is for various sizes of ductile pipe. Ductile pipe is used by field crews when servicing the community to address water main breaks and the replacement of aged piping. This pipe is a critical inventory item, and this will help maintain our stock levels and prevent emergency spot buys. This bid was advertised for 22 days. We received 2 bids. Ferguson Waterworks was the lowest responsible bidder. And based on this information, procurement recommends this contract to the Finance Committee for support to move to the full board for approval.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Yes.
I'm trying to understand when I'm assuming this is a budgeted item. We come up with such a weird or different number rounded down to 52 cents. How do you come up with that number for budgeting purposes?
When we put, may I respond?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. When we put out the quote or solicitation or bid, we asked for pricing of various sizes of the ductile pipe, and the vendors submit their pricing, and we calculate for 2 years their pricing, and then total it up, and that's how we come up with 52 cents sometimes. And
Okay, I was just curious. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion is approved. And we'll now move on to 2025-58. And we're looking at the financial review for December 2024 presented by Issachar Rahman.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Issachar Rahman, CFO, DWSD. Today, I'll be presenting the financial highlights for the month of December 2024. Since this is a quarter end, the second quarter of our fiscal year, this presentation will include certain additional slides compared to our normal monthly reports. The first slide here is on our cash position. On a system-wide basis, as of the end of December, we carried a balance of $288.8 million, 136.7 of that in the water fund and $152 million in the sewer fund. This balance represents an increase of $7.7 million over the November balance. As you can see in the graph below, water operating cash had $11.5 million, a slight increase from the previous month. And sewer operating cash at $22.9 million, again, a slight increase from the previous month. Generally speaking, these balances are holding steady. Next slide Tamara. This is the slide on our improvement and extension. We also call it I&E cash. We continue to spend down our I&E cash as well as the construction cash for our capital improvement program. As of December 31st, 2024, we had $27.3 million in our I&E cash account, representing an increase of $8.1 million over the November balance. The increase is really due to reimbursements that we receive from our funding sources for capital expenditures. In the sewer fund, we are holding pretty steady at $40.9 million, a slight decrease of $700,000, again, due to disbursements for capital expenditures, which we, to a great extent, get reimbursed by the funding source in the coming months. Next slide is representing our construction cash is holding pretty steady for both the water fund as well as sewer fund. Slight increase or decrease is mainly due to disbursements. Also, it gets reimbursed for some investment income that we have. No significant changes there. We go on to the next slide, which is the cash held in trust with Great Lakes Water Authority. Water cash at the GLWA trust account had $30.3 million, a slight decrease of $278,000 compared to the November balance. Retail receipts, where all our retail receipts come in, was $9.9 million for the month of December. It fell short slightly from our target collection. Our target collection for the month is $10.2 million for the water fund. For the sewer fund, we had $42.3 million, a decrease of 1.2 compared to November. Retail receipts for the sewer fund was $23.9 million in the month of December. That also fell short of our target collection for the month by $1.2 million. Our target collection for the month is $25.1 million for the sewer fund. Moving along, as I mentioned, there are some additional slides to our quarterly report. This is a quarterly report and summarizes the cash position by fund and by quarter. The next slide is again a quarterly report that we present to you every quarter. This summarizes our cash position by financial institutions. The top part of the slide are all the financial institutions where our cash and investments are held. And as you can see it from the top portion, more than 70% of our cash and investments are in GovMake. The GovMake is a vehicle, investment vehicle, where we park our money that we can use for the longer term. The benefit of this is the rate of return is higher than the cash balance we have in our other financial institutions. And the other benefit is it is very liquid, as in when we need cash for operations or for whatever reason, we can tap into the GovMake without sacrificing our rate of return. The next slide, again, a quarterly report, gives you a summary of our cash and interfund balances. As you see, the red bar here across different months is showing a slight increasing trend. When you look at December ending balance, it is at $43.5 million. This is a combination of our cash and interfund balances and represents a slight decrease of $600,000 over the past year. The next slide summarizes the sewer activities, again, holding very steady. As a matter of fact, if you look at the sewer December balance, it shows of $64.1 million. It represents an increase of $12.6 million over the past 12 months. Moving on from cash to our receivables, the December sales of $41.1 million increased slightly to 2.2% over November. Increase is mainly due to a $3.6 million increase in governmental sales. Other customer classes had either flat or decreased sales in December, and understandably so because of the seasonal variation. Government sales increased this month due to the resolution of a meter issue at Belle Isle, which we had ongoing for some time, was fixed in December of 2024. That resulted in a $3.3+ million in sales. Active receivables of $301.9 million increased by $6.4 million, or roughly 2.1% when we compare it to the November receivables of $296 million. Primarily increase is mainly because of residential. It increased by $2.8 million, and as I mentioned, governmental by $2.1 million. Our December cash collection of $33.9 million increased by 1.4 when we compare it to November's cash collection of 32.5. Active residential receivables continue to increase by $2.8 million, roughly 1.3%. And the aging also increased by 30 days in December. We continue to monitor our receivables on an ongoing basis, and appropriate allowances are made as and when deemed necessary. Allowance for doubtful accounts stood at 75% of our total receivable balance, which is pretty similar to what we had in the past. The next slide, this is again a quarterly slide. It gives you a summary of our accounts receivable by agent. We can see on the slide here, $142.8 million, or 47.3% of our total active receivable balance is over 1 year past due. Residential accounts itself is 77% of the past 1 year due balance. Almost 52% of residential receivables overall are over 1 year past due. A summary of our cash collection rates over the last 3 months, as well as the rolling average for the 3-month period. Residential collection rate for the 3 months preceding, including December, hovered around 70% range. December collection dropped slightly by 2.2% as we compare it to November. Commercial and industrial continues to hold steady, consistent with November collection rates, and November as well as October collection rates. Drainage only collection rate for December increased to 70.2% compared to 59.1% in November. The 3-month rolling average at 66.9% is deemed low compared to other customer classes, as well as our general expectation. We do expect collection to be in the high 80s or low 90s, so this is comparatively pretty low. Overall, in terms of collection, the residential and drainage only collection rates continue to be a concern for us. On an overall basis for the month of December, our combined collection rate was 84.2% for all active customer classes and was higher than November's collection rate of 79%. On a 3-month moving average basis, the collection for all active customers stood at 83.8% as of December. Pretty similar to what we had in November. Switching gear to our matrix and revenues, here are the slides. You can see the December volume as well as revenue exceeded their respective budgets. However, if you take on a year-to-date basis, both the volume and revenue is short of seasonally adjusted budgets. Move on to the next slide, Tamara. So this is our survey charge, matrix and revenues. December meter equivalents as well as revenue exceeded the budget, their respective budgets, and the year-to-date numbers also exceeded budgets by 3% on an average. Looking at our sewer side of the house, December volume and revenue exceeded the budgets for each class. However, when you take a look at the overall year-to-date volume and revenue, they fell short of the budget on an average by about 3%. The service charge and metrics revenue exceeded budget for both the meter counts as well as the sewer service charge revenue for the month of December. Not just the month of December, even on a year-to-date basis, the meter counts as well as the service charge revenue exceeded budget on an average by 4%. Here's the last chart on our revenues and metrics. This is for our drainage charge. December BIA, which is the billable impervious acres, exceeded the budget by 1.1% and was actually over November by 0.1%. On a year-to-date basis, we are 0.1% over budget, so we're holding pretty steady month over month in this case. But when you look at the revenue side, it's kind of below budget. Just
Mr. Carr,
yeah.
excuse me. I think our screen hasn't caught up with where you are. There we go. I see it now. Drainage. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
So the billable impervious acres exceeded the budget slightly by 1.1%. On a year-to-date basis, the BIA is over budget or holding pretty steady and flat. But when it comes to the revenue, it's slightly down. And this is mainly due to some drainage, some green credits that we offer our customers, which kind of draws our revenue slightly down compared to the budget. Next slide, please. All right, so those were our regular monthly financial reports. Again, on a quarterly basis, we do come to you, present you certain information on our Lifeline plan. This is the financial part of our Lifeline program, summarized as of December 31st. On the left-hand side are the numbers that tells the story where we stand for the program as a whole. As you know, since September of 2022, we have covered receivables to the tune of $48 million, meaning we have forgiven receivables of $48 million as soon as somebody enrolls in the Lifeline plan. Against that $48 million, we received $18.5 million from various governmental sources till date. We also ended up writing off $8.7 million, either because they did not qualify to be reimbursed by federal grants or state grants, or just ran out of eligibility criteria. So that left us a balance of $20.8 million. The second part of the chart is the gap areas. This is the gap, meaning the total bill minus whatever the customer qualifies under the Lifeline plan, under the tiered system, whether it's $18, $42, or $56. This is the gap between the total bill and their share of commitment for under the program. So we had $24 million since October of 2022. Against that balance, we received 4.8, or was covered by REP dollars, which is the assistance program in-house between us and GLWA. We got $4.8 million. So on an overall basis, we have total outstanding enrollment plus gap areas of almost $40 million as of December 31st, 2024. We'll move on to the next slide here. The one before. One next. No, before. Please go back. Go back. Let's go to slide 18 and 19. There you are. Oh, no. Not sure what. All right, this slide is missing in her presentation. But generally speaking, we have $48 million. The Lifeline program has cost us $48.7 million as of December 31st, which is a combination of all the costs involved minus the grants and funding we receive from various sources. This slide tells us about where we stand as of now in terms of funding availability. There is a significant shortfall from where we are versus what is out there. in terms of funding. We have $3.5 million from the RAP program, which is an internal water assistance program between us and DWSD. We have $2.6 million in the Michigan Water Affordability Grant, and $5.1 million from the Water Utility Affordable Program. So all in all, about $11.2 million available at this point in time.
Excuse me, Estica, we have to open up the CIPO committee.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll close this meeting out to the call of the chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, it is 1:46. I'd like to call the Capital Improvement and Operations Committee to order, please.
Chairperson Coleman,
Present, Detroit, Michigan.
Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Kinlock,
Present, Detroit, Michigan.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to yield the floor back to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. And we'll resume the presentation. Istakar?
Okay. So this is the funding level slide, just to let you know how much funding is available at this point in time. Then we move on to the next slide. This is the quarterly report on our budget to actual. This is for the second quarter ending December 31st, 2024. Fiscal year 2024 water revenues were $3.2 million over the straight line budget. However, when you compare it to the seasonally adjusted budget, we are 1% short. And the seasonally adjusted budget information is presented on slide 13. The reason this is presented in two different ways is because our trial balance or in our accounting system only can handle a straight line basis of comparison, whereas we also do a seasonally adjusted comparison separately out of the trial balance environment. So that's why we see the difference between this slide and what we have on slide 13. Similarly, for sewer fund, there is a $1.9 million positive variance, which is about 3.1% over a straight line budget for the 6 months period ending December 31st. Drainage charge revenue fell short of the budget by $3.3 million, again, due to credits or additional credits that came along during the 6-month period. The other GLWA reimbursement has a positive variance due to the actual pension expense requirement being lower than what was budgeted for based on actual valuation. This next slide summarizes our differences in our expenses by various appropriation. And the main thing here is variance because of vacancies. We had 32 vacancies in our operation appropriation, with 12 in compliance and 12 in finance. Those are the major reason for the variances in our personnel cost. There were also some other variances. Again, some of these are due to timing difference. As we move along the fiscal year, our hope is that all of these will level out in a positive manner as we approach the year end. This slide here, the last slide in this presentation, is our variance between budget and actual for natural classification of expenses. Again, summarizing all our vacancies as well as some of our contractual differences between the budget and actual. Most of them are positive variances, and I only focused on some significant ones. Again, at the end of the day, all these variances, both in revenues as well as expenses, should even out as we go through the last 6 months of fiscal year 2025. No concern at this point, but we'll report to you again in our next quarter, and then as we get closer to the fiscal year end. That completes the presentation on the monthly report. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Are there any questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Hearing none, we'll then, thank you, Issachar. We'll go back to the agenda. And our next item on the agenda is the planning calendar. Issachar, any comments there?
Yeah, so we just presented the monthly report for December. The final proposed FY 2026 budget could not be completed for today's meeting, as we had some delays in the GLWA's completion of their budget, and we are dependent on that as well. So we will be presenting our FY 26 operating budget in a special finance committee meeting on March 12th. The same thing with our rates and charges. We will bring you the preliminary version of our water, sewer, and drainage rates for FY 26 in the March meeting, on the March 12th meeting. The expectation would be for you to review and approve the final proposed budget on March 12th, so it can go to the full board on March 19th. But for the rates, we can just do a preliminary review because they are not due for approval till April.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And at this point in time, we'll move on to other matters. Are there any other matters to come before the committee? If not, our next meeting is April the 2nd, 2025. And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
Thank you. It's been moved, and I believe I saw Commissioner Coleman support it, and so we are adjourned.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Thank
adjourned.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, back to the Capital Improvement Program and Operations Committee meeting. At this time, can we call the roll already? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
You can second it.
Second. It has been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2025.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Next is public participation. Do we have any?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We do have Cecily McClellan, who has her hand raised.
Ms. McCullen.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to speak. During when DWSD managed the entire system for Southeastern Michigan, it was close to 4,000 employees. The DWSD employee numbers now are pretty much less than 700. So it's understandable that the bulk of the work or responsibility to maintain the infrastructure of the system is being maintained by GLEWA. So I'm very much concerned whether or not there are sufficient capital improvement dollars to maintain Detroit's very old and aging infrastructure. The scare and the concern that happened in Southwest Detroit has the potential to happen throughout the city of Detroit. And whether or not there will be resources to compensate the residents as they are doing right now in Southwest Detroit, it would be astronomical. So I guess my concern is whether or not there have been dollars allocated in capital improvement by GLEWA to support the infrastructure within the city of Detroit, and also whether or not the DWSD board members are aggressively pursuing these dollars to ensure that the improvements are made and we can avoid what happened in Southwest Detroit happening in other parts of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Do we have any other comments?
Sorry, I wasn't muted. I was muted. Mr. Chair, we do not have any other hands raised.
Well, thank you. So we will close out public comments. Next up is communications. I see we have none. Unfinished business. I see we have none. New business. Item A, 2025, TAC 60, CIP budget versus actual variance report, second quarter.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon.
This is our usual second quarter, our quarterly reports on budget versus actual expenditures for all our CIP program or projects. On the next slide, Tamara. Yeah, this is a short presentation on the status of our budget to actual expenditures for each of the projects that you approved. Again, this is the second quarter. All projects are within the approved contract amounts. As you'll see in the next two slides, we have summarized all the water projects as well as the sewer projects, the actual expenditures, the budgeted expenditures, as well as the amount approved by this board. There are 4 contracts in the water projects, as you'll see in the next slide, that are highlighted in red. These are the projects which have expired in terms of their contract period. These projects have been completed within their respective budgets and are in the process of being closed out. There are also 4 projects in the sewer project list, which have also expired in terms of the period of the contract. And all of these projects have also been completed within their respective budgets and are also in the process of being closed out. You'll also see there are 3 contracts in the sewer side, DWS 908, 916, and 917, that actually had descoping of contract terms due to less than desired performance by the contractor and will be closed out. In future, I think they'll be reaching out to either expand the contract somewhere else or with other contractors, but this one led to descoping and closeout process. DWS 918 has been terminated before the end of the contract period due to non-fulfillment of the contract terms by the contractor. So you'll see large variances for these contracts between what was approved by the board versus what was actually expended because contract did not run through its normal course. There's one contract, DWS 938. Payments have been paused for this contract due to certain disputes regarding performance and payment-related matters. Apart from these, all other projects are active and are continuing, and unexpended amounts are expected to be spent during the rest of the course of the contracts. The next 2 slides summarizes all the water projects as well as the sewer projects. If you go down to the next slide, Tamara, this might be small in print, but it summarizes again all the projects by the project number, the period of the contract, the amount approved by the board, the amount expended so far, and the variance and the reason for the variances. As I said, the 4 projects highlighted in red are the projects that have expired the term, but none of them exceeded the budget. And the next slide is the sewer projects. Again, there are 4 that have expired and are in the process of being closed out, and the rest are all either within budget or there are variance explanation as to why there are large variances between the budget and the actual. That would conclude it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
No questions? Okay.
The question in the chat.
I'm sorry?
There is a question in the chat.
Okay, I can't see the chat, unfortunately.
Mr. Chair, I can answer that. Sam Smalley, Deputy Director. The question is, what's the process for contracts that have been terminated and work still needs to be done? Generally, what we do is we estimate the value of the work that remains, and we withhold that from the contract so that the city and the department is not harmed as part of a collaborative termination of contract early, which is what we have done for the contracts that were mentioned today. It was a collaboration or a cooperative termination. So we made sure that we retained enough money to get the work completed elsewhere.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Commissioner Coleman, before we go on to the next item, we do have to open up the customer service committee meeting.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call the Customer Service Committee meeting to order at 2:01 and ask for a roll call, please.
Chairperson Blackman,
Detroit.
Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Forte.
Present.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I will recess the Customer Service Committee meeting to the call of the chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to line item B, 2025 Tax 63, Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, FYI 2026. Sam, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, Commissioner. This is the 2026 Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Project Plan. Next slide, please. The Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, DWSD will be seeking low-interest drinking water SRF loan assistance for fiscal year 26. We are well positioned to receive either low-interest loans or even principal forgiveness, because Detroit is a significantly overburdened or disadvantaged community according to the metrics used by the state and the EGLE, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. Because of this status, we are eligible for loans of 30 to 40 years instead of the typical 20 years. We have previously been given principal forgiveness of $10 million with 100% loan forgiveness for a lead service line project known as the Booker funding, which was one of our earlier lead service line projects. Next. In this project plan, we have 2 water main replacement projects and 5 lead service line replacement projects for a total of $140 million. The work will generally include excavation of existing water mains, hydro excavation of service lines, the installation of new pipes, rehabilitation of older pipes, replacement of lead service lines, pressure testing, backfilling, and restoration of work sites. All of the work will be performed within the existing road right-of-way, with the exception of the private side of the lead service lines. It's on private property. The impact of the project will improve customer satisfaction and allow us to continue to provide safe, reliable, affordable drinking water to our customers. Next. Every construction project has temporary impacts, but the benefits are lasting for the community, and we will use mitigation measures to help reduce the impacts to our customers. We anticipate no impacts on historical, archaeological, geographic, or cultural resources. The projects are necessary to help ensure that DWSD will continue to provide high-quality potable water to our customers. This project plan describes the water mains in need of critical replacement or rehabilitation. The project is currently estimated at $140 million, $20 million for each of the 2 water main projects, and we have submitted for 5 $20 million each lead service line projects. I'll hold there for a second. So we have made a rather large request, especially for the lead service lines, in anticipation of bipartisan infrastructure law money being available, which may help DWSD get either 100% loan forgiveness or significant principal forgiveness, which is why we're making such a large request. If we do not get the level of principal forgiveness that we anticipate, we are under no obligation to follow through with the loan. Next slide, please. Next. So Project A water main replacement in District 5 will be replacing about 5.5 miles of vintage cast iron water mains, typically 6 and 8 inches in diameter. We anticipate about 450 lead services will be replaced as part of this. Again, the overall cost is $20 million, happening within Eastern Market, Forest Park, Island View, Medical Center, North End, and West Village. Next. I'm not going to repeat all of these. I will let you look at the graphic, but these are the water mains that have been identified in need of replacement or rehabilitation. Again, we have a comprehensive and robust asset management program that goes into neighborhood by neighborhood, does comprehensive inspection and assessment on both the water mains and the sewer mains. We have a risk-based model that looks at the consequence of failure times the probability of failure. Based on a significant amount of data, these are the mains that have been identified for replacement or rehabilitation. Next. Thank you, Tamara. Project B, water main replacement in District 6. This is planning to replace 6.1 miles of, again, vintage cast iron water mains, sizes 6 and 8 inch in diameter. We anticipate 500 lead service lines, again, with an estimated cost of $20 million in the locations of Central Southwest, Hubbard Farms, Michigan Martin, and Springwells. Next. Again, I'll let Tamara flip through a little slower this time, the actual alignments. Thank you, Tamara. Again, all of those water main replacements or rehabilitations were selected based on criticality and their propensity to pass water main breaks, their location to critical facilities or major roads. We look at all of that data. Now, the 5 lead service line replacement projects, again, we think that we are well positioned to get significant principal forgiveness. So we are asking for 5 $20 million projects that would replace up to 2,000 service lines. Each service line is estimated at $10,000 each, and the locations proposed are on the list: Belmont, Bethune, Cadillac Heights, Chandler Park, Northwest Claytown, Northeast Claytown. And again, when we do our selections for lead service lines, we're looking at data such as where are the most vulnerable residents, especially children and seniors. We look at social economic data. Where are the most disadvantaged areas? Where can we do the most good, the quickest? And we also look at the density of lead service lines in each of those areas. Next. These are the locations of the 5 proposed projects. The schedule. Next. So we will be asking for a resolution to be approved at the March 19th meeting. On May 2nd, we will ask GLWA to approve a resolution. We will submit our final project plan to Eagle on June 1st. We anticipate publishing the bid in January of 26, with construction starting in April of 26. And again, we will be asking for the board to approve a resolution at our next regularly scheduled board meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, no questions at this time. Next item, planning calendar. Quarterly update review.
There are no changes to the planning calendar, Mr. Chair.
I appreciate that. Are there any other matters that need to be brought before the body at this time? Seeing none, our next meeting is scheduled for April 2nd, 2025. I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn, please.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Davis. I motion that we adjourn.
Mr. Davis, how are you? Can we have a second? I'll second it. This meeting is adjourned.
Very much. We will resume the customer service committee meeting at I don't see the time, but we're resuming it at this time. I think we finished with the roll call. We're now asking for approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve it.
Properly moved, and I will second it. There's no one else on with us. Any questions on the agenda? All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. The next item is the approval of minutes of February 5th, 2025. What is the will of the committee?
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Approval, and I will second the approval of the minutes. With no questions or corrections. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. The next item is public participation. Is there anyone who has indicated that they wish to speak before the committee at this time?
Madam Chair, we have Cecily McClellan.
You need to read the public comment statement again. I think they've all heard it, so we don't need to read.
Oh, yeah, Madam Chair, that I did check the list, and there are no new members of the public on the attendee list since the first meeting.
Welcome, Ms. McClellan.
I'm sorry for this opportunity. In terms of the enrollment in the Lifeline program, based on the dashboard, it's about 12,444. And there are pending approximately 16,000 between new applications and those that are recertified. It's our understanding that it takes about $1 million to service 1,000 residents. So already, based on the number of enrollees, there is not sufficient funding to maintain the same level of funding for Lifeline or services for Lifeline. My concern is, where are these residents? Are they being referred to the Easy Pay program? Are they in shut off? What is the status of this approximate 16,000 pending residents? And it would be very helpful if the Easy Pay program also had a dashboard that could indicate the number of enrollees in the Easy Pay program over a 6-month period, how many are continuing the Easy Pay program and how many are unable to successfully complete the Easy Pay program. One of the things that we also have from residents is a concern about what their billing and collection rights are. Recently had an individual who's living in a home and the landlord is deceased. And so it's our understanding that the water could be turned on. Right now, the water is off, but it's our understanding that the water could be turned on in her name. the billing and collection procedures might be helpful, even if it had to be amended, if it showed exactly what are the rights of the residents. And that also extends to even if there's a complaint. I know that it previously used to be that you had 28 days to even complain about your previous bill, and after that 28 days, you no longer could complain. Is that still the process? Additionally, if you have medical issues, you had a right to have your water restored within a 24-hour period. The billing and collection rules or process policies, it would be extremely helpful if those policies were made available online on your web page. But again, if it is possible, we would like to see the Easy Pay program publish a dashboard showing the status of the residents in that program. And we would also like to know whether those people pending in Lifeline have been referred to the Easy Pay program. Thank you very much for your time.
I don't know if we can probably, it'd be easy, you asked several questions, probably be easier for us to respond to you in writing and make that information available to the rest of the committee and the public. Mr. Phillips, may I ask which
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I know we normally don't like to respond, after each comment, but if I could just provide a brief response for Ms. McClellan, is that possible?
Absolutely, thank you.
Yes, the
Hey,
answer.
Hey, Matt, before you respond, we do have to open up the HR committee.
Goodness, that happened, sir.
Okay.
I yield.
Well, I have to, I think I have to recess to the call of the chair, and then you may reassert.
All right, we will now open up the Human Resources and Organizational Development Committee. Mr. Secretary, could we have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Blackman,
Right.
Commissioner Garcia.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. We will now close this out and resume at the call of the chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Phillips, would you like to continue?
Yes, just briefly for Ms. McClellan, is that all of individuals and residents that come forward into the Lifeline program are all provided with information about Easy Pay. And as well as that comes directly from Wayne Metro, but also the Detroit Water and Sewage Department also provides in writing to those individuals that that do not get into the Lifeline program, the means and methods that they can get into the Easy Pay program, and that's done in writing. In fact, individuals that applied for Lifeline will receive that letter within the next week or so. That's already in process. And as far as the dashboard goes on Easy Pay, that has been provided on a monthly basis in the customer service presentation. That dashboard is presented once a month at the customer service presentation that's done every month by me. So it's been that way since September of 2024, and I will provide those numbers again shortly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. And that information can be accessed easily by, you said it's provided monthly, so if someone wanted to access it, they would go through, how would they get it?
I provided verbally in this meeting, as well as it's saved on the web in the customer service. I can't think of the term. I'm sorry.
Portal.
In the portal on the Legistar, right? Just like every presentation and everything that's presented at this meeting is all saved to Legistar, that's available to the public.
I just wanted to make sure we repeated that so that those listening would know how to access the information. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Were there any other comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. Next, we have D'Amico Williams.
Williams, welcome, sir.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Just fine.
Yes, hi. Okay. So I'm just gonna respond to what I just heard. Okay, we're asking for clear numbers as to who is all that have been inquiring for Lifeline, can't get Lifeline. Have they been given to the Easy Pay program? I hope that's in Mr. Phillips' metrics, but also it's March 5th, 2025. I know the water department is going to use this time to try to conjure up some fear, tactic, scare campaign to scare people into paying on their water bills. And I'm throwing myself one more time in front of this table as a partner, as the executive director of Hydrate Detroit, to please, before you do anything, let's meet as a community and talk about what we need to do to inform our neighbors to pay on their water bills before you ruthlessly shut them off this summer. You know, I understand that there's money that needs to be paid, but also there needs to be agreements and assurances that you will not wrongfully shut off people's water. I don't care if you say you don't shut off people's water. You don't shut people's water off at this time. We have a lot of factors. Again, Wayne Metro, why is there not a representative here to talk about or to corroborate Mr. Phillips? Why is Wayne Metro not here to update us about what they have done since the beginning of the new year, since the water legislation? And I'm still upset that you all have spent $1 million, wasted it, and you didn't use us. We the people, Hydrate, the community activists that would have backed up Mr. Brown. That is a disgrace. You know, money well wasted. If we end up in emergency management because of this, you know, it will be your fault because you don't get community input. And when you do get community input, you don't take our suggestions and you just leave people hanging out in the cold. This is my last time and my last rodeo coming to you all to beg you all to not shut the damn water off. People are trying to pay. Give them time. You know, when was the Easy Pay last promoted? When was the last time that we could get that I've asked about commercials and such so that people would know about the Easy Pay? And when are you going to tell the real details of how to enroll in the Easy Pay? Because it's not just putting down $10. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Phillips, I really do think that there needs to be some response. We do not ruthlessly do anything to our customers. We are here to try to help our customers stay current, as current as possible, and to make sure that we do not cut their water off without doing everything we can to make sure that their water, that they can keep their service. I really, I don't want to say I'm offended, but I'm disappointed that that statement would have been made. I didn't know if Mr. Peckinpah or Mr. Phillips want to make some kind of comment.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Mr. Brown, Mr. Director, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Sorry I'm late, but I'm here now. First of all, I want to thank D'Amico and Hydrate Detroit, as well as all the other advocates, Monica Patrick from the other advocacy groups that came to the Great Lakes Water Authority meeting and really made a difference. They just don't know. The Great Lakes Water Authority was about to pass a rate increase at 7.73, and because of the 3 hours of public comment by all of the concerned citizens, as well as water advocates from all over the region that called in, they really made a difference. And on the spot, the Great Lakes Water Authority reduced that rate, which in the long run is going to help all low-income customers that are struggling to pay their bill. So I want to just put that out there first and foremost. We thank them for educating the board of directors of the Great Lakes Water Authority, as well as staff. They really, truly made a difference. And I won't spend a lot of time going into how people are moved from Lifeline to Easy Pay, but it is as easy as this. We do it automatically. They don't have to do anything. If you're in Lifeline and you're being moved to Easy Pay, we seamlessly do that for the customers. I think what people are talking about is new customers trying to get into Easy Pay program, because the ones that were in Lifeline by us get seamlessly rolled over to Easy Pay. So, and you're right. We the last thing we want to do is shut anyone off. And I think right now we have we have a track record. We're not doing that arbitrarily. And I'll leave it at that, Madam Chair.
Mr. Brown. Are there any other comments that we passed? Given an opportunity to speak, who want to.
Yeah, Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised.
Thank you very much. We need to close public comment and maintain communication with our advocates who are working. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is communications. There we have none. Unfinished business, we have none. Moving on to new business. Mr. Phillips.
Madam Chair, thank you. Tamara, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. Thank you. Madam Chair, can you just confirm you can see the presentation?
Screen, your presentation is on the screen.
Thank you. All right, so let's get started with the February 2025 business review of customer service. In the month of February, we received a high of 57,211 calls and responded to 6,471 email inquiries for a total of nearly 64,000 total touch points for the month. Overall, we received nearly 3,200 contacts on a monthly basis versus our 1,400 that's been budgeted for. So we were over our forecasted volume by 127%. We received nearly 123,000 total customer interactions for the month between the customer service calls, emails, and self-service that happened and occurred during the month of February. 18% of our calls were answered within 2 minutes, and we received 1,825 calls that were received from the Southwest 54-inch water main break. I just want to note that during the month of February and continuing on through March, DWSD was selected and asked by the mayor's office to answer the hotline number and be the call center for the Southwest water main break. We dedicated 7 of our call center DWSD individuals to take those calls. We also had the Detroit Police Department also volunteered and provided us with 5 officers to assist us in handling and triaging those calls from our residents that were impacted by the event. And today we actually started 18 new individuals that we were bringing in on a temporary basis to assist with helping the residents that were impacted, the 418 households that were impacted by the water main break. So I just wanted to note that DWSD is not only from a boots on the ground standpoint, but also from helping our residents and continuing our tradition of providing excellent customer service.
Madam Chair?
Sorry.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Go ahead.
Matthew and Director, thank you for all that you've been doing. I just want you to know that it's been very difficult in our community. LACES worked around the clock on Saturday and Sunday delivering food and making sure the residents have whatever they can. It is a nightmare. It's a disaster that's going to be not repaired in a very short time. And the issue is, I'm not sure, some of the people that you hired, hopefully they're bilingual, because you have a lot of people that do not speak English in that area. And I know that LACES will be more than willing to help. They've been helping out. And Mary Carmen from, the director of LACES said, fill out the forms, will help, they're very complicated for people. So if you can provide those forms for Southwest Business Association, for LACES, for UNI, I think that would help fill out the paperwork because it is very complicated for them. And if they don't read English, it'd be more complicated. So I really would appreciate those things being provided. And please contact Mary Carmen because they've been working, weekends and nights and I know that they're at hotels. The people that have been devastated are in hotels, but they still have to get back to the community. So they are providing transportation. My biggest issue with the children going to school. So I just think that I want to thank you for what you have been doing. I just want you all to know that this is not going to be repaired overnight. I don't see it repaired overnight. I still think that the bridge has done a lot, that second bridge has done a lot of damage to our community and pounding and it's just so unusual that we've had so many things, the sinkholes, the pipe busting is just really bad. So I want to thank you for what you have been doing. I just wanted to make sure that you reach out to Mary Carmen, Matthew, because they will help.
Nope, absolutely. Commissioner Garcia, thank you very much for your comments. We definitely have, I've spoken to Mary. We've also worked with a lot of the other agencies within the area. We had the boots on the ground that went door to door to every house, as well as to every door in the hotel. All of the forms, not only is it just a form, but our public affairs department has provided instructions and frequently asked questions about those forms. It's both in English and in Spanish.
Okay.
We've communicated, I think, just about every way possible. And like I said, we've tried to make it super easy by going, door to door to hand deliver those documents on more than just one occasion. So, and as well as the fact that I know all of the DPD personnel that we brought on are all bilingual and speak Spanish as well. So I think that we have provided as much as humanly possible to accommodate all situations that are there.
Matthew, the problem that we had in the community was that because of this new administration and the issue about documentation and immigration is that 3 weeks, 4 weeks, probably a month prior to the disaster that happened, we were telling people not to open the doors, for fear of being, deported. So then you had this crisis, and now we're working with them and saying, please trust the people to come to the door. As long as there's not police and immigration officers, please trust them and fill out the paperwork. We do have a lot of problems also with the illiterate issues, but I just wanted to make sure that I thank you all for what you're doing and Mary Carmen and the rest of the agencies that are dealing with it are doing one heck of a job. We've had grocery stores, we've had the Ambassador Bridge, we've had a lot of the people roll up their sleeves and actually provided gift cards for food and clothing. So, we need to thank everybody. I think Detroit is the only city I've ever known that when crisis hits, we all come together. And I think that I thank you as a water board commissioner, but also as the chair of the oldest Hispanic organization in our city. So gracias.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Matt, we do have to open up the legal committee.
Understood.
Okay, if you put the Detroit Board of Water Commissioners Legal and Government Affairs Committee meeting will now come to order. Would you please call the roll?
Chairperson Kenlock.
Present.
Commissioner Einhauser.
Present.
And Commissioner Blackman.
Right.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
We will now recess to the call of the chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, so we'll resume the Customer Service Committee. Mr. Phillips?
Yep. 1 second, Madam Chair. Just share my screen again. I'm assuming you can see it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to finishing up the metrics for February in the customer service department. Our average speed of answer was 11 minutes and 42 seconds on the emergency line and 33 minutes and 20 seconds on the non-emergency line. We did see an increase on both of those average speeds of answer, for the month, mainly due to increased call volume of over 100% of what we were budgeted for. The customer service satisfaction, or CSAT rating, was at 80% to the goal of 72%. So that is 18 straight months in a row that our customer satisfaction has exceeded the goal. And our first call resolution was at 69%, just 2% less than what the target was, or the industry standard is, which is 71%. We received 6,727 Easy Pay calls in the month of February.
Congratulations.
And then looking at just a 6-month rolling dashboard of call center data, you can see that February was our highest call volume in the last 4 months. And I pretty much went over all these metrics, but this is just there for those that like to see the dashboard and have a historical perspective. Madam Chair, can we move on? Suggest that we move on to the next item on the agenda without bringing it back up. The next item on the agenda is the planning calendar.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. So the Lifeline is the subject of the planning calendar for the month, and this includes not only Lifeline, but also Easy Pay, as was asked earlier. So receiving the Lifeline benefit was $12,604. Benefits provided from a financial perspective since the new grant year started for Lifeline. So we've provided nearly $2 million in gap assistance. That's the difference between the $18 a month tiered payment and the full bill, as well as $1 million in arrearage forgiveness in the past 5 months. Easy Pay currently has 20,729 individuals participating in Easy Pay, and the total payments that have received, not only the monthly payment, but also the Easy Pay payment, has totaled a little over $13.5 million since it started in August of 2024. Recertifications that have been approved for Lifeline is 6,540. We currently have 75 pending recertifications by Wayne, according to Wayne Metro, as well as pending eligibility by Wayne Metro at this point in time is 5,807. Those that are paying consistently on a monthly basis on the Easy Pay program, which is every month they're making your Easy Pay payment, is 51%, or 10,125 total individuals for those that are keeping count. Any questions about Easy Pay or Lifeline?
Questions, commissioners? Thank you.
That concludes the customer service presentations. Madam Chair, back to you.
Mr. Phillips, I don't see the agenda.
We put the agenda up. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other matters to come before the committee? I do have a comment to make, very, very brief, very quickly. I just wanted, we know this is Women's History Month, so I wanted to comment on the number of outstanding women who have had a key role in our department. I don't want, they're not in order, but Cheryl Porter, who was assistant director with us, and she's now the COO of at GLWA. Sue McCormick was our director. Kathy Levy was our director. Valencia Mobley, deputy director. Pam Turner, director. And I hope I haven't left anyone off who's had a key role in the administration, but I want to congratulate all the women who have made and continue to make outstanding contributions to the department. And the next item is, are there any other matters? The next meeting then is April 2nd, 2025, and the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll move, Madam Chair.
Moved and that we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
We will now, oops.
All right, we will now reconvene the Human Resources Subcommittee. Is there a motion to approve today's agenda?
So move.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by the sign of aye. All opposed, and that motion is carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of February 5th?
Chair,
Support?
The motion has been made and properly supported. All in favor of that motion signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, and that motion is carried as well. We'll now open up public participation. Do we have anyone that is in line for public participation?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. We do have D'Amico Williams.
All right, Mr. Williams, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioner Davis. D'Amico Williams, Chief Executive Director of Hydrate Detroit. I just want to respond to the last comments that were made. You know, it's very important for all of us to understand that when we're commenting about affairs of the region, we have to keep in mind that all of our neighbors are affected, not just Detroit. But see, this is why Detroit, when we had the system and the suburbs didn't have to worry about anything, and they want to say this is why regionalization is bad, because we can't get agreements and we can't get any type of consensus. Those communities don't want to give to a water affordability fund that they need, and to convince them otherwise. And the leaders of Southeastern Michigan should have kept the same energy and making sure that our elected officials, our state elected officials, push through that bill. I've heard a lot of things, but last night in the president's speech, I didn't hear anything about infrastructure. I didn't hear anything about expanding water infrastructure in urban cities. I didn't hear anything about funding. I didn't hear anything about trying to find funding for opportunities. So what are we going to do? We can't rely on the states. The state doesn't have enough money. Here we are fighting for a pot that we all should be entitled to. It's not enough. So where are you going to get the money from? Who's going to go up there and talk to Donald Trump? Who's going to go up there and meet with Lee Zeldin, the EPA leader? Who's going to go up there and be brave to meet with the folks that are in charge of the funding? How are we going to get to Elon Musk? Can we sponsor a trip to Elon Musk to come to Detroit so we could talk to him? I guess he the one that paid for or has some type of influence. He can get us money. He's a billionaire. I refuse to believe that federal and state rate money that comes to this department, when we already know that the money that's raised is from taxpayers. The money that's raised is from private organizations, and they're funneled into that, So I just want this committee to understand that hiring Black workers and training Black workers, young men that are desperate for a job, that is need to provide for their families and to keep them from going homeless and freezing like those children, it matters. And I have not heard that from this department of how many Black and Latinos and such that is hired to put them under a jobs program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Are there any other hands for public comment?
Mr. Chair, there are no other hands raised.
All right, then we will now close public comment. That moves us on to communications, to which there are none. We do not have any unfinished business, which takes us to new business, the human resources metrics, and that'll be by Director Thornhill.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to share my screen. Second. Our human resources metrics, you will see that currently we have 671 employees. This is a net of +1 since we presented to you last month. And currently, you'll see that our headcount has increased since the end of last year. And retirements. Currently, 18% of our workforce is retirement eligible. And we do have 2 employees that have retired. Brenda Humphreys, she was a quality assurance analyst in customer service. She had a little over 9 years of experience with DWSD. We wish her well in her retirement, as well as team leader Corey King. He had over almost 29 years of service with DWSD. We wish them both well in their retirement. Currently, we have 11 open requisitions. This equates to 14 open positions. Are there any questions?
Here,
Commissioner Blackman.
previous slide, we showed how many employees were hired and how many live in the city of Detroit, our Detroit residents. And I hope this answers one of the questions that was asked previously about who we're hiring and where they're coming from.
Our goal is to reach out to the city of Detroit and all of the surrounding communities with any of the job opportunities that we may have. We also post on Indeed, and sometimes we post on Facebook when we have openings.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Blackman?
I was trying to get clarification for the question that was raised. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any others? And I do want to say we did have a recruiting event scheduled for last month, but it was on the day of the bad weather. It was at Wayne State, so it will be rescheduled, just to let you know. It was an engineering event. So there are no recruiting events to present to you. So I'll move on. And just to talk a little bit about training and development, and we are going to start talking about that monthly, sharing with you some of the things that we're doing. Currently, 40, and this is a wonderful number, we're so happy, 40 of our DWSD employees registered for the May 7th Water Operators exam. And that's for our S license, where we'll offer an exam at all 4 levels. So that's a very high number, and we're very ecstatic that so many of our employees are excited about learning more about water and water operations. Another new piece that has been implemented is that the actual training for the water operators licensing will count as continuing education credits, which is required once you attain one of those levels within the training and the certification. So we're happy to continuously develop our employees. Any questions, commissioners?
Thank you.
So our planning calendar next month will be on environmental health and safety. And I'm very excited about that because we've hired a new environmental health and safety manager. So we'll talk about that next month. But for this month, we're going to talk about performance management. And we present this every year to you when we get ready to go through this portion of our cycle. So what's new this year? This year, the performance evaluations will be completed using the Human Resources Information System, UltiPro. And this is what we currently use for payroll and other things, timekeeping and that type of thing. The DWSD leadership, they input performance goals into UltiPro last fall or the beginning of the fiscal year, and they assign them to their employees. By doing this, this allows us to store that information electronically for employees to access electronically instead of having a piece of paper to access that data from. So we're very excited to be able to utilize the new technology provided within the Human Resource Information System. Management meets with their employees throughout the year to discuss where their employees are related to their goals, and those goals are updated as needed. Also new with this implementation segment is that employees will be able to complete a self-assessment as to where they are regarding their goals as a part of the performance management process. And DWSD leadership will complete the performance evaluations within UltiPro. And this makes it easier for the supervisors and the employees to be able to access that information when needed, instead of worrying about where a printed copy is filed or where an electronic copy is stored out on our box drive. The performance evaluations are also attached to an employee's record within the Human Resource Information System. Again, instead of taking up space in a file cabinet or stored electronically. So we're very excited about utilizing new technology. Are there any questions? And just a few screen clips for those that may be familiar with UltiPro and some of the screens. And it's just a demonstration here, a quick clip of where the goals are stored. When you access the system, you click on where there's people and a key there on the screen. And then you will be able to input goals and assign them to your employees. So there's an example of 2 of the HR goals for a total of 5. So goals 4 and 5. Are there any questions? Okay. So again, next month, I'll be very happy to present to you our new environmental health and safety manager, and she's going to do a very extensive presentation for you. But for now, that's all we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Thornhill, for a very timely and excellent report as always. On your new health and safety person that you just mentioned, is it possible that when you introduce her, when she gives her presentation, she could do a little something on what the department does to prevent injuries? For example, the other day, there were a couple of gentlemen, there was a cave-in. They were working underground, downriver. There was a cave-in. I know that's one of the worst things that can happen when you're working below ground. Perhaps you're a new person, or you could give us a short presentation on what we're doing to prevent that. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Will do, Commissioner. Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, are there any other matters? Hearing none, our next meeting is April 2nd. Chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that motion's been made, and I will second it, and we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will now reconvene the legal and government affairs meeting. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. A motion is in order to approve the agenda.
Approval, Mr. Chair.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and supported to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this item stands approved. The next item on the agenda is approval of the previous meeting minutes of February 5th. Motion is in order to approve the previous meeting minutes.
I recommend that the minutes be adopted as presented.
Is there support?
Second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the previous meeting minutes with any necessary corrections. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, this item stands approved. The next item on the agenda is receipt of the correspondence. You have the litigation report under items 202.
Mr. Chairman, we
Yes.
skipped over public participation.
Oh, yes, it's okay. I'm sorry about that. We need to have that a little bit bigger.
No problem.
So we'll now go to public participation, and I would like to ask who will read the rules of engagement for our instructions, public comment instructions.
Mr. Chair, this is Brian Peckapaw, Public Affairs Director. Good afternoon. There are no new members since the first committee, so I recommend that we go straight to public comment by the first individual.
Okay. And do we have anyone asking to be recognized to address this committee?
Yes, sir. It is D'Amico Williams.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, hello, Commissioner Kinlock. How are you today?
doing fine, thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. D'Amico Williams, Chief Executive Director of Hydrate Detroit. For this meeting, I want to bring concern, and I want to speak up for a good friend of mine. And also, I am a disability advocate for those that are deaf, hard of hearing, that are blind, that have developmental disabilities and such, that include to be recognized. And one of those men is Daniel Hayner. Daniel Hayner was served with a cease and desist. Not sure why he's receiving that after he's been to a couple of board meetings and he's spoken out, and you have no translator for those that are deaf and blind that would make a public comment. But in the letter that was addressed from Jacob Bari to threaten Mr. Hayner with legal action. And I think that's an overreach. I think it's disrespectful, and I think it's actually a tactic to keep him quiet, and that's not right. Mr. Hayner is a valued member of the community, and also if he has his own equipment and his own company, and I think that he was assisting with the flood, with one of the floods. You know, you can't trust DWSD and their contractors, outside contractors, to do work right. So why are we harassing Mr. Hayner? I would like a response. And if you can't respond, you can at least give some sort of a comment as to why is he being harassed. I just don't want this to turn into a situation to where you're threatening members of the public from speaking out, and you're also threatening them to come and talk about the situations that you all are responsible for. You're responsible to keep those streets clear. You're responsible to get the debris out and to suck up all of the contaminants out of our sewers with the vacuum hose cleaners. I didn't think it'd take anybody else to call you out, but now that they're calling you out, you should not threaten them. Please disregard that cease and desist. Speaking as a friend of Mr. Hayner. Thank you so much for taking my comment, and you all have a great, wonderful day.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Okay, Brian, is there anyone else asking to be recognized to address this committee?
Mr. D'Amico Williams was the only hand raised, so there are no other hands, sir.
Okay, thank you. At this time, public participation is now closed, and we will now go to the next item on the agenda, which is the litigation report. And under the litigation report, the only thing I would ask is, let me take a look. Only thing I'd like to ask to our legal affairs, to our legal department, as relates to the reports, when I would like to ask when certain entities or people that are being sued by the department for unpaid water and sewage bills, I would like to ask, or just basically say it would be helpful for the department to include the actual address of the unpaid water account. Council, do you have any concerns as it relates to including that in this along with this information?
Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. Commissioner Scott McGriff, General.
Yes.
You're asking that in this report that comes to the board, where the DWSD is suing an entity or an individual for unpaid water bills, you'd like to know which address that applies, which address?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
I don't believe that poses a problem because that would be part of the public record in terms of the
Correct.
suit
Yeah.
that has been filed. So I don't believe that would be a problem. We can add that to the report.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And with that being said, I'd like to ask, are there any other additional questions from members associated with the litigation report? Any additional questions? At this time, I would like to receive a motion to receive and file.
I would so move.
Is there support? Is there support? Okay. It's been moved and supported to receive and file. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, this item stands approved. The next item on the agenda is a receipt of correspondence. And you have attached to the attached to 2025-62, the FOIA report. Are there any questions associated with this report? There being none, a motion is in order.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Oh, no, I couldn't hear you.
Okay, I move receive and file.
Second.
Been moved and supported to receive and file the FOIA report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This item also stands approved to be sent to the board for its as a information item. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. I know of none. New business, under new business, the planning calendar. I will be setting up in short order a meeting with our council to go over a planning calendar. And with that being said, we will now go to the next item, other matters. I know of none. Other than I would like to join in with everyone commending the department and the mayor and all of the city agencies, police department, everyone who's been responding to the housing revitalization department, everyone who's been assisting with dealing with the emergency down in Southwest Detroit. I've been hearing a lot of good things from citizens, particularly, and I think that it shows how we can respond when we all work together. So I just definitely want to, both as a water commissioner and as a person and a resident in the city of Detroit, to commend the department. Job well done. Next item on the agenda is the next meeting, and that will be April 2nd. With that being said, we'll go to the next item, which is a motion to adjourn. A motion is in order.
Adjournment, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved
And seconded.
and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I believe that was our last meeting.